Okay, in this video, we're going to take a look at our second masking option inside of RenderMan. This one is called Cryptomatte. Cryptomatte is going to be very similar to matte IDs in that we are assigning objects unique colors that let us easily select them inside of Nuke so we can mask them out, right? The difference between matte ID and Cryptomatte is that Cryptomatte is going to automatically do this whole process for you for every object. So you can see here, it's given every single one of my objects in my 3D scene a unique masked matte ID color, right? And so this is really handy because, as you can see on this skeleton, each of these bones and muscles, that's a lot of different objects that would require me to set up matte IDs by hand. I could write something like a mill script to go ahead and do that for me as well, but at that point, why not just use something like this that will go ahead and go through and automatically process and assign these masks for me, okay? Cryptomatte also has so it's a RenderMan plugin, but it also has plugins for other software. And the other one we're going to be using is the Cryptomatte plugin inside of Nuke. And so this one lets us analyze and assign masks inside of Nuke based on the color masks that we choose. So I can use this with the color picker, and I can just click on my masks. And you can see over here, let's take a look at this. You can see it's just selecting those masks and assigning them for me, right? So I can come in here and I can still, even when I'm in this view, I can isolate and hide different things really easily by hand. So this method of isolating colors and masks and choosing them is also easier than what we were doing with matte IDs. So this is still both methods of assigning and selecting masks is a lot easier inside of with the Cryptomatte plugin than it is with hand assigning matte IDs. Okay, I'm just going to get rid of this Cryptomatte for now. Okay, so next we're going to take a look at RenderMan and see how we're going to set up our Cryptomattes. Okay, so in order to create Cryptomatte images, what's going to happen is at render time, we've been looking at render passes that are packed into one image. Cryptomattes are going to be created as separate files. So it's going to be, if you have an image sequence, like your whole batch rendered scene, then the Cryptomatte files are going to also create a Cryptomatte image for every single frame of your animated sequence. And let me go ahead and bring that up so you can see. Drive. Okay, render farm test images. So here's where my batch render put my images. And we can see here that we have Cryptomatte images. And then we also have my custom display images down here as well. Right? So I have 15 frames. And so for every frame, there is a Cryptomatte. Okay, so in order to create the Cryptomatte, what we're going to do is we're going to open our render settings, come over to the RenderMan tab, come over to the Features tab, and let me go ahead and break this connection for now. And in order to add a Pixar Cryptomatte to the sample filter, we're going to right-click on this empty field here and click on Create Pixar Cryptomatte. Okay. And then if I want to check out the settings, I'm going to click on this button right here to open it up in the attribute editor. And so over here in the newer versions of RenderMan, you shouldn't have to change anything in the directory name or the file names. Some of these settings, if you get more in depth with it, you can mess around with. So for instance, like the levels and accuracies are going to affect the range and number of colors used for assigning your mattes. In previous versions, you had to use a custom variable for image sequences. But in 23.1, they've changed that. So this is what this triangular brackets F4 stands for. In case you aren't aware, frame padding is essentially how the program, when it names things, how it assigns numbers and creates numbers using zeros. So if you zoom in right here, this is what frame padding 4 looks like, where you have 3 isn't represented just by the number 3, it's represented by 0, 0, 0, 3, right? And you can see this is a frame padding of 4, so it's 4 digits. This one over here is a frame padding of 3, so it's 3 digits, no matter what number it is, right? And so this is really handy because certain programs like to sort numbers different ways. So if, like for instance, Nuke will go through and it will check the numbers and it will look for the first number. So if the first number was just, let's say we're going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? So the first number it encounters is going to be from 1 to 9 is just going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? And then when it gets to 10, the first number it encounters is 1, right? So it doesn't necessarily understand that 1, 0 creates 10. It's just kind of doing it alphabetically or it's sort of alphabetically where the first number it takes is going to be how it sorts it. So then it would sort 1, 0 next to 1 instead of after 9. So hopefully that kind of makes sense without visuals, but by using this frame padding, we're not using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're using 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3. So that first encountered number is that 0 rather than the 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's just essentially a way of forcing a number order for different programs to read. Okay. All right, so that's what that frame padding is using. So we're using frame padding 4, which is going to be that 0, 0, 0, 1. And if I have my files open, you can see here 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 2. And you can see when we get to 10, it's 0, 0, 1, 0, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. All right. So once that's done, it's pretty much all you have to do. So Cryptomatte's not going to show up if you do a single preview render. So if you're just doing a single frame render in your image tool, you're not going to see it. You're going to have to do a batch render or send off a job to the render farm. Okay. So for the batch render, I just went ahead and did my batch render settings and clicked batch render, and I got those secondary files. So I'm going to be using those, but those should show up just fine on the render farm as well. Okay. So that's pretty much all you have to do in the RenderMan stage. So in order to use it in Nuke, you need to first install Nuke, of course, but you should also install the Nuke plugin for Cryptomatte. So in order to do that, we'll just Google Cryptomatte, and we want to go to the GitHub page. It's usually the first thing you're going to see. So we're going to go to the GitHub page. We're going to click on download the zip, right? That's going to give us a zip folder. And inside that folder, once we unzip it, is going to be a folder called CryptoMaster, and then it's going to have the plugins for Fusion and Nuke. So we're going to want to take the Nuke one, right? So once we have this open, I'm also going to go ahead and open in a new window. Let's see. Go to, mine is in my D drive. So you'll have to look up for your specific computer and your operating system where your Nuke installation location is. I installed mine on my D drive under program files, and then Nuke 12 version 1, or 12.1 version 1. And then it's what you can do is you can either drop it in the plugins path, or you can just drop the contents of this into just this folder right here. So you just drag it over here, just like that. Okay. What you're also going to have to do is, if you already have, it might ask you if you already have this initialize and menu file in here. If you already have things inside that file, you might need to go in and edit them using like a notepad or some kind of text writer, and then just add these 2 lines to it. So that's probably not something you really have to do unless you've already installed other plugins and you want to have those plugins still in, and add Cryptomatte to that list of plugins. Okay. So once you've copied the contents of this folder into your Nuke folder, then you should be able to open up Nuke, and hopefully, if it worked right, you should have this little purple triangle symbol here. So by clicking on that, it's going to add a Cryptomatte node. Okay, I'll delete this other one. Right. And so all we're going to do is I brought in my Cryptomatte image sequence. So this image sequence right here is my Cryptomatte sequence. Okay. Here's my Cryptomatte node. And if I view it, I can see what that looks like, right? And the Cryptomatte node is going to be using color picking to select the masks. So again, this is coming out before the nuke video. So there's some things that this might be a little further ahead than you need it to be. So if some of these things I'm just kind of breezing through, hopefully don't worry, I should have that video out soon. But you can see here inside of, if I have that Cryptomatte and I'm viewing it by pressing 1, right, to view it, in order to add to my mask, or to add to my selection to be considered for my mask, I'm going to click on this picker add right here. And then I'm going to use the color picker to select which colors I want to add to the mask. So in order to use the color picker, I'm going to hold Control, maybe Command on Mac, I'm not certain, and then left click. You'll see that there's a little red dot that shows up there that is highlighting what I have selected, or highlighting where I clicked. And then when it turns yellow, that shows that that mask is selected, right? So I'm adding all these objects to my mask. And if I come over and look here, I'm gonna press 2 on my keyboard to assign the 2 key to this. You can see here I have these objects as I'm clicking on them. They're being added to my mask. If I wanted to remove, I can just click on Picker Remove, and then I can just left click and select on those. Cool. So just like setting it up, it's very easy to do. So use inside of Nuke. I can change the output. I think alpha is probably what you want to use. I don't know why you would want to use anything else. I think we should be able to, if you want to just quick clear out all of the masks, you can go to this mask list and you just click clear. If you have like a ton of them selected and you want to get rid of them. And so that's pretty much the basics. It's going to output an alpha channel that we can use as a mask for whatever nodes we want. So it's a lot easier to set up and probably a lot easier to use than the mat IDs. I still think the mat IDs are very handy if you just have 1 or 2 objects that you want to work with. But for the most part, it's going to be, this is going to probably be the much quicker method to create masks. One other thing I wasn't able to show off last time was, let's go ahead and add my character, right, is the power of having a, let's pull this over to 15. Okay, oops, you can see it here. Let's go ahead and add this one. Is the power of these masks or these matte images and how they can help us mask out a part of our image without having to draw, especially in the case of animating objects or objects that are moving through space between frames. So you can see that arm right there, that tricep, is moving in space, and it also has other objects running over it or going through it. So if I really need to mess with just that object and nothing else, right? You can see it's, especially those 2 nerves right there that are crossing right over it. If I had to hand create that mask, that would be a pain in the butt, especially considering that that object is moving through space. So I didn't have a animated demonstration last time to show it off, but I just wanted to show that to you guys, of the power of having either a mat ID or one of these matte images for your masks, because it's going to be rendered out and animated and drawn perfectly to your object. So that's pretty much the basics of using the mat ID or the Cryptomatte. It's just going to work just like mat ID, just simpler to set up and easier to use. Okay, that's it for this one.